Hi everybody! This video has taken a long time to make, but I'm finally ready to share. I went to my first ever Furnal Equinox this year. I had a relative blast, and then going on to win the Fursuit Masquerade talent show later that same night. But astute observers would have noticed that despite my qualification into the final of the dance competition, I was not present at the show. Heck, I wasn't even allowed in the theater. At the board of Furnal Equinox's request, I was removed from the competition. Why? What gives? All this and more after the intro. Big thank you to this video sponsor, me! Just a reminder that I'm not some privileged popular getting all my expenses paid to go to these conventions. I go to work and budget just like a normal person. But thanks to the direct support of my fans, I can devote more time than ever to making music and touring, which saves me a lot of stress. So thank you for standing with the scandalous civet. Alright, so, Furnal Equinox. As stated, it is the biggest furry convention in all of Canada, and for the last 2 years, or the last 2 iterations, it happened to be on the same weekend as Texas Furry Fiesta, which is why I had never gone before. Which I previously said is my favorite convention south of the border, as they were the first convention to give me a chance as a musician. But thanks to a booking snafu with TFF, the prophecy had to be fulfilled. And that also meant that half of my March tour would be spent at Canadian conventions. So that's cool. Now, having never done this convention before, I decided to submit my 3 usual events. After the con's social media had posted that they had emailed panelists, I began to get worried. I was also in Europe at that time, so I decided to email the convention directly and find out what the status of my panels was, since I hadn't heard anything. Turns out, they were all rejected, without cause and without notifying me. And I didn't learn that until I reached out and asked, which is exactly the failure of communication I've been chastising and harping big conventions like MFF about for years now. Uh-oh, not a good sign of things to come. I should have heeded the omen, but alas. So, as you've come to expect from me at this point, I decided to write a long and passionate email to the head of programming, basically saying that I didn't think that what they had done was very responsible, not very professional, and was in fact possibly rude and deliberate. At which point the chair joined the email thread. Thankfully, the chair said the con could use some more live music. And then bam, I had a concert. Huzzah! Still no Survivor though, which is sad, but technically, I couldn't have really run it to my usual production standard anyway, because I was out of buffs, but shh, don't tell anyone. I'm allowed to be sad, okay? And no TF me. But that's okay, because if someone else is already running one, then I don't want to step on anyone's toes at their local convention, you know? I just want to fill panel needs. Getting a concert was definitely a win though, especially at the biggest con in Canada. You know, as a Canadian myself, and possibly one of the most recognizable furries in all of Canada thanks to some televised appearances last year. Plus, I was one of the only 2 concerts at the con that weekend, with the other being a non-specifically furry themed bard show because of the theme of the con. They got main stage. I didn't. Just wait though, I haven't even gotten to the reason they decided to ban me from the dance competition. But it has to do with my concert. Let's just cut right to the chase and give you the full play-by-play. I will be using footage from my concert as it's instrumental in not just clearing my name, but in calling out the staff for what they are: opportunistic liars. It was Saturday at FE 2023. I had to miss the fursuit parade in order to give myself enough time to get to my show early and prep, which they had scheduled at the same time as the middle/end of the fursuit parade, as well as at the same time as Uncle Kage's story hour. Talk about stiff competition for attendees. Once I got in the room though, I realized the con had put me somewhere that was severely lacking in equipment, despite their earlier reassurances. So much so that one of the volunteers that was helping me said that the convention itself did not consider the room to be an AV-capable room. Typically, I rely on the con to provide at least a mic, or an available AV crew, to manage my audio-visual needs, as I would prefer to do the show in fursuit, making it much harder to control and manage the backstage needs myself. I'm quite used to performing at cons, and I'm good at adapting to whatever room situation I end up in, or even doing it all myself. My understanding was that I was getting a room ready to go for a full fursuit concert, but that was not the case. I arrived with just a USB stick with my instrumentals on it, but there wasn't even anything in the room to plug it into. And I stupidly didn't bring a dongle to connect my phone to their setup as a backup. Thankfully, the con volunteers that were there to help me did at least have that, as well as a device that I could use to plug the USB into my phone. So then I copied the folder directly onto my phone, and we used the dongle to play right off of it. They even managed to wrangle a laptop, but the show was just about to start, and I said that since we had already set the phone up, we might as well just go with it, since I would prefer to start on time than try to set up a new piece of equipment. I always do my best to start on time. So the concert goes off without a relative hitch, besides one minor phone glitch at the beginning. Yay, we did it. My phone went into do not disturb mode for some reason. It would refuse to play audio, so now it's time for Anonymous. Hooray! And the usual me struggling to remember the set list they asked me to hastily prepare before the show. One of the difficulties with doing like a concert is that sometimes depending on like the setup for like, you know, AV and whatever, sometimes I need a set list. And a lot of the time I don't have one. Usually I'll just like provide a USB of all of my backing tracks and I'll just be like, yeah, I'll call out the name of the song I feel like performing next. And then you just hit the button and then we'll do it. But when I have to come up with a set list, then it gets more complicated. So I don't remember what was number 3. What was number 3?
Hieroglyphics.
Oh, okay. See, I don't know if I feel like doing that one.
Want to do the next one?
Is Moonlight on there?
Moonlight is the next one.
Okay, I want to do Moonlight next because I like doing Moonlight a little bit more. I'd lightly ribbed the slapdash circumstances of the concert, including a joke about how AV often promises that they are filming or recording me and swears they'll get me the footage, but more often than not, they don't. But they weren't recording me at Furnal Equinox at all. Like, I knew that they didn't have a camera on me, which is why I talked about now having my own camera to record myself, explicitly so that I wouldn't have to rely on AV having a camera anymore. And I have acquired a new iPad. It is recording me right now. This is not something I had ever done before, with like actually recording my concerts myself. I always like relying on, you know, AV. It's like, oh, you guys are streaming it? Well, you're gonna record it, right? No. If I had $1 every time AV was like, yeah, we got a recording, and then I never got it, I would have like at least $5. So it's not exactly the amount you need to buy a new iPad. So now I am recording myself on the shiny new iPad. So hooray, though it can't capture the essence of the room, obviously. So that's a little sad. I'm gonna hopefully be able to get a photo or a selfie with everyone in here after, but the phone is being used to play music right now. So make sure you stay for the whole show so we can get a selfie at the end, okay? Promise. I didn't think the comment was really directed at anyone at FE, so much as me just making a general statement on my past experiences performing at other conventions. The only person recording me was me. But the show ended right on time. I was very happy with it, and I even remembered to get a photo of the crowd. I got off stage and spent about 15 minutes talking and mingling with my audience who wanted to chat and take photos of me in fursuit and buy merch. Eventually, con staff came to remove me and the rest of the audience from the room. I had just a few minutes to catch my breath before I had to run off in fursuit to attend the Furnal Equinox Fursuit Masquerade rehearsal. It's basically just their version of a talent show. And the majority of performers aren't wearing fursuits either because they discovered that requiring performers to wear fursuits was cutting the amount of participation way down. But it was my first FE, so I definitely wanted to do the fursuit masquerade in fursuit, you know? And I know I had already spent most of Saturday in fursuit already, but I was determined, okay? Then, showtime again. I was one of the last performers to go, and decided to sing my, failed Eurovision entry and latest non-album single, Hullabaloo, for the first time in full fursuit. I had also sang it back at Further Confusion's talent show, FC Unleashed, back in January in partial fursuit, but I didn't place there, so I didn't really have any expectations going into the masquerade at all. Not that I enter talent shows to win anyway, seeing as how I have never won anything at a convention or outside of a convention in regards to talent shows. I do them because I like to perform and share my art with the community. During rehearsal, one of the AV crew said they remembered my song from FC, which I took to be a good sign. And when I finished performing, I felt really good. I had been singing in suit all day, so in a way I was ready. And even though I don't think my voice was necessarily at peak performance, given that I had already done a whole hour of a concert in fursuit, I still felt really proud of what I did, and you can watch that performance here. See for yourself. The judges seemed to enjoy it, and the audience's response to discovering that I had written and composed the song. It was all me singing live. I wrote the song. I composed it.
Yeah, I knew that.
Wait a minute. Whoa, that was me singing off stage. You didn't know that was me? Yeah.
Gave me even more good vibes. I started to think I actually had a shot. The judges in the audience need all the information on the performers. But yeah, like I said, I've gotten my hopes up before, so even though the crowd seemed super into it, I was making sure to meter those expectations just a bit. Then the final result came, and my name was called as the winner! I couldn't believe it. Later on, I was shown the scores, and my win was only by a few points, but it was enough. I accepted the title and trophy, gave a little speech on the spot about being a performer in the furry fandom, and that was it. Whew, what a day. And night. After the show, I got stopped for so many fursuit photos and all that good stuff, before eventually making my way back to my room to de-suit for the first time in like 10 hours. Dead tired, but still feeling amazing and riding the high of that victory. Fast forward through a Saturday night of raucous parties, and here we are at Sunday. I got my fursuit back on in the morning and went right down to the main theater where the dance comp was to be, which I had auditioned for on Friday, and according to the convention's post, I had gotten into the final. And yet, when I went inside the theater, I was immediately escorted out by the host, Nah. He told me that the board had banned me from the dance competition, but not the convention. He said I was supposed to have been told, but at no point during my extremely high-profile Saturday and talent show win was I ever told that. Nor was I messaged about that decision. I just found out when I arrived. I left and decided to go ask the convention operations department if they had any more information about what the heck the board had decided, apparently. And he didn't seem to know, so he asked around a bit, and I waited around to get an answer. Eventually, I was like surrounded by a half dozen board members or executives or whoever for the convention, only after the dance comp. And they said like, yeah, we're not changing our minds. Like, duh. They waited until after the competition they had banned me from to tell me that they weren't going to change their mind. Wow, really working with some geniuses here, huh? But I simply asked them to lay out what I had done that was such a bannable offense. And they said repeatedly that I made Constaff feel unsafe, which was the first time in my life I've ever heard my conduct described in such a way. In fact, they said it so many times to my face that I was quite surprised to see when they did eventually email me with their list of accusations that the word unsafe was nowhere to be found. The way they spoke to me in person was some of the most indirect, vague, human resources type BS that I've ever heard in my life. And as someone who is a government union employee, I can spot it when I see it, okay? But ultimately, the board's decision was final, and the event had already concluded. I guess they just wanted to meet with me to tell me how unsafe I was. Or, sorry, how unsafe I made them by existing. Which brings me to the final thing I must dissect in this video, the email they sent me to justify their decision. Just look at this crap. They gave 4 points as to why I was removed from the dance comp lineup. These reasons included asking what song was up next in the set list they asked me to prepare on the spot. So, yeah. Arriving to my own concert with virtually no preparation and listing off things I apparently needed to bring, even though they had reassured me I was in an AV-capable room beforehand, and the life-ending crime that is asking if I can do an encore song over my time. Oh my god. Granted, I know that's an extremely long shot ask, which is why I asked? Don't do a civet wrong is the point. So, what time are we at now?
4:47.
Oh damn, where'd the time go? Well, I heard that there's nothing in here after, so maybe I could do an encore or two. Or not, I have no idea.
AV says no.
AV says no. Okay, so then 13 minutes left. Thinking in my head, what can I do? And yet, even that is just a step too far for the cry bullies on Effie's staff team, apparently. And of course, the first reason they gave is what I wanted to say for last. My comments about not being recorded. Their own quote is that I very publicly asked why the show was not being recorded. Which, hey, look at that! I have the video. Play it. I always like relying on, AV. It's like, oh, you guys are streaming it? Well, you're gonna record it, right? No. If I had $1 every time AV was like, yeah, we got a recording, and then I never got it, I would have at least $5, so. Now, I know I don't have the best hearing in the world, especially being in a fursuit, but I'm pretty sure at no point did I ask why the show wasn't being recorded. I tried to play it off as a light jab about how quickly everything came together, and how I had finally acquired a new device to record myself and take the stress off of the AV people and my expectation that they would be recording. And they turned even that lame comment into a reason in their email to ban me from the dance comp. It's absolutely clear to me that I had a big old target on my back the second I won that talent show, and the staff who didn't like me were just looking for any weaselly excuse to get rid of me in any way that they could. Even those points I just listed for you, they essentially amount to nothing. I had done nothing wrong. They had their most fragile staff on hand to whip up some minor complaints, and this is still the best they could come up with? That is fucking pathetic. Small mention, this Mune idiot has been liking several of the tweets and posts criticizing me, so I think I will have to address this a bit directly. But boy, does it seem like some of the blame is on them, which is kind of how I want to conclude this video. Furry conventions seem to continue to have a major problem with their staff. People who don't seem to want to take any accountability for their actions, their poor communications, and how that all compounds to affect attendee experience, let alone the event itself. I understand the furry fandom has never had a personality like mine in it before, and perhaps some of these soft boys that make it to convention boards have never received criticism in all their life. But simply, how can my existence as a traveling performer, expecting the absolute bare minimum at conventions, has led me to be labeled as some sort of fandom villain or diva? I'm just the fault person because no one can take responsibility, and I am unafraid to speak about my experiences and to demand better. Furries deserve better. Better conventions with better staff. So now I'll call on Furnal Equinox themselves directly. I encourage all the idiots in charge to put together a formal, public apology for their actions. If not, I'm not sure I can ever feel safe going to Furnal Equinox again. You cowards threw the word unsafe in my face so many times, it's time for me to throw it back at you. How do you think a person of color feels getting told repeatedly by the exclusively white people in charge of the convention that I make them feel unsafe? That's extremely coded language, and your email doesn't back it up. The people running your event were power tripping the entire weekend and need to be replaced. Man, I thought my criticism of convention leadership rot was specific to American conventions, but I guess it figures that the Canadian one that's basically half staffed by Americans suffers from all the same problems. Ugh. And that's the end of the video. This was a hellish undertaking, and obviously it took months to even pull myself together enough to write a script and film it all, but it's finally done now. The people deserve to know about the garbage happening at our conventions that leadership would prefer to just dismiss as drama and not failings of their own, especially with how they're treating one of the only people willing to travel and perform and run panels and would like to see events get better and improve, but apparently no one else wants that. And I find all of this incredibly disheartening, but I know at my core, if I stopped going to furry conventions, I would still be a furry. I don't need to attend your lame event just to feel like a furry, because I know what I am. And you have to make people like me feel comfortable in your event, not the other way around. And that's nothing these dishonest conventions will ever take away from me. So I want to thank my patrons and everyone who's made it this far into the video. Wow. Thank you for believing the furry fandom can get better. And thank you for listening to me tell my side of things. I've got a lot more videos in the works, so make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I hope that I will see you in the next one. But for now, that's been my time. Yeah, I don't have much else to say at the end of here, so and goodbye. Let's hope the next video will be a bit more positive, but I doubt it.